Hey, you got time for a beer? I know I do. Welcome to my show. My name's Jake. It's not Thursday, but I do have a new beer here for you. You can find me at tubajake_69 on Untapped YouTube and Twitter, and on Instagram you can find me at tubajake_. Don't forget to tell me your stories. I like to hear them. Hopefully you do too, because I'm going to tell you stories. I do that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so that other people can see this, because that's how social media works. The more interaction I get, the more people get to see it. So if you could, that'd be great. Anyway, this one is Birch Bark Porter by Kickstand Brewing Company. It says it's world-class beer, uniquely our own. They're out of Commerce, Michigan, down near Detroit someplace. I mean, that could be anywhere from Ann Arbor to Port Huron, according to some people. But this one, actually, this one's like north of Livonia, I think, if I remember correctly. This also says, Birch Bark Porter, brewed with 7 different specialty malts. This porter is rich with notes of fresh roasted coffee and decadent chocolate. Should be pretty good. I like these, usually. So, let's hope, here's to hoping. Anyway, let's get this started. So it's a porter. It says it's chocolatey and coffee-y, which those are two things that it's supposed to be. 6% ABV, 6.1% ABV, I think is what that said, which puts it right on where it's supposed to be so far as the alcohol by volume goes. Not super carbonated, which is a thing that you kind of expect from porters also. You're not going to get the kind of head that you get with a stout, with a porter. It makes sense, all of this so far. Usually porters are dark. Usually they're also a little more see-through than this. You usually get like a red kind of see-through, just because porters tend to be a little less full-bodied than a stout, if that makes sense. They're light. Well, the mouthfeel is lighter. They're generally a little bit heavier. This one smells boozy, which that's fine, but at 6%, I wasn't expecting that. Oh, there it is. Coffee and chocolate. Mostly it's a coffee flavor that I'm getting. There's also a super heavy metallic taste in this, which can be from being in cans. It could be the water that got used. It could be that this is a lot older than I think it is. It says drink it fresh, but I don't know how long it was sitting on the shelf. It also says keep it cold, and I found it sitting on the shelf where I bought it from. So, I don't know. I've kept it cold since I've had it. Tastes like it's supposed to. So the mouthfeel on stouts feels a little bit more creamy. The mouthfeel on porters feels a little bit more watery, which this does, and it's supposed to. It makes it a little bit more drinkable and taste darker. Tastes dark. That's nice. It's supposed to. What I was really kind of hoping with the Birch Bark Porter, well, with the Birch Bark part on there, is that they actually used birch sap and boiled that down, put that in there. But I don't think that's the thing that this has in it. Because it tastes a lot like maple syrup, but this does not taste like maple syrup. And it'd be good if it had maple syrup in it. It would taste good. It would. Is there a beer this reminds me of? This reminds me of a little bit of the Bell's Porter, a little bit of the Founder's Porter. I mean, it tastes like a porter. It's good, made well. that initial taste of metal is kind of going away, or I'm not noticing it as much as I get down into this, which is nice. Is there a story this reminds me of? Probably. I'm gonna go with a camp story. Getting ready to start my first year at camp. We had a bunch of people that ended up being moved all around. The path director the year before I was the path director was an interesting guy. I don't know how much of what he said about himself was actually true. Believe he was an Eagle Scout, but also don't believe all of his stories, that he was 19 and did some of the stuff that he was claiming. I don't know. Roger was an interesting guy, but he did tell me about something, show me something that I didn't know would happen. So, on a birch tree, if you take a chainsaw and you go make a cut, it doesn't have to be deep, just through the bark down the tree, the bark will actually peel itself back around the tree. And then you just like pull it off, which is kind of cool, really. I'm pretty sure that's sort of how they used to make that into canoes, but I mean, obviously not with a chainsaw, because Native Americans didn't have chainsaws, but you know, with an axe of some sort. Could probably accomplish the same thing. I thought it was neat. Roger was an interesting dude. Smelled real bad by the end of the year. Or by the end of the summer. It was kind of gross. But kind of a cool guy, or seemed like a cool guy. Maybe he was telling me the things that I wanted to hear. Claimed to be Jewish. At the end of the season, we went out for food, and he got the ribs. Not beef ribs, mind you. Not beef ribs. But I mean, his other choice was like shrimp, so either way, kind of hosed right there. But yeah, I was almost the path director that first year too. They were gonna let him go, find somebody else to run the trading post, because that's what I was doing, and put me in as path director. Which probably would have been better. Although, I mean, Roger wasn't a bad guy. There were guys that were bad guys that worked at camp. One kid, they called him Aussie. I don't remember his real name, but from Australia, but living in the U.S. Threatened some scouts with a knife. Got sent home. Weird, right? Can't imagine. Was that the next year? That might have been 2 years later. I think it's 2 years later. It might have been the next. I don't think it was the next year. I think it was 2 years later. Maybe it was the next year. It was definitely the first year that Will was there, and I don't remember having. No, wait, I did have other people. It was probably the second year, or third year, not second year, because I had Ryan and Levi for my people. Which, I mean, that's a weird thing. Okay, so you got me. I'm in charge right now. I think Ryan is a track and field coach at Central. Girls, because I don't think we got a boys team. I think they're working on getting a boys team back, but not the boys team because they don't have one. But coaching at at Central. Was up until fairly recently an international track person, competed internationally, made money doing that, which was kind of cool, I thought. Then Levi is a lawyer down in the Detroit area. Both of those guys are pretty cool. Let's see. Last I knew, what was a security guard. I don't know if he's still doing that or not. I haven't heard anything from Eric. Probably still involved with the Scouts. That kid was weird. Who else? Greg, still a good friend. He was a couple of years later. He's a social worker, which is crazy because when I met him, he hadn't quite failed out of Central, but pretty close. But master's degree. Pretty cool guys. I like those dudes. All right, anyway, I've got a quote for you. This one is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Writer, orator, I think would be a good way to put that. He would have been like contemporaries with like Walt Whitman and Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain. So they go around speaking, right? But like pretty much is just reading books. So were they stand-up comedians? Most of Emerson's stuff's really smart. But if you go to Whitman, kind of funny, but like all in verse, which is neat. And then Samuel Clemens was a stand-up comedian. Anyway, Ralph Waldo Emerson. He said, "All life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better." So make life. Experiment. It'll turn out different, probably every time. Unless it doesn't, which is good for the most part, but, you know, have fun with it, I guess. Science is fun. Anyway, don't forget, you can find me at Untapped YouTube and Twitter, all at TubaJake_69, and on Instagram, you can find me at TubaJake_. Don't forget to tell me your stories. I like to hear them. Hopefully you do too, because I'm going to tell you stories. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because it makes it so that other people get to see this stuff, and I like that. I think that's all I got for you. I'll see you next time, when you got time for a beer.